Hi everyone, welcome back to the Crafty Author. My name is Anissa. I am the Crafty Author and welcome to my quilting room. Today we are going to be working on our block of the month. In particular, we will be squaring up and we will be modifying the blocks to make them all fit. And then you will be ready to start putting your quilt together. So I'm going to show you how you do that. I will not be going through and finishing off the quilt with you. I will be doing that on my own, but I want to show you how to modify the blocks and how to square them up so that you will have a beautiful looking quilt. Okay, so I have already gone through. And what you'll want to do as well, in case you want to change the sizing, is I have measured each one of these blocks, okay? Every single block that we've made, all 12 of them. And I like to take the one, I usually go off of the number that I have the most of. So like I have some small blocks, this one's a little bigger than that last one I showed you. I have some really big blocks like this. So the whole idea is to get them all about the same, well, not to get them all about, it is to get them all the same size. All right, so when I went through and measured all of these, I'm just going to give you the numbers that I have from when I measured. And I just measured it on my mat. So I used the little squares and I just counted along the edge of my finished quilt blocks here, okay? So I had one that was 9, 10, 14 inches, 12.5 inches, 13 inches, 12.5 inches, 13.5 inches, 14, 12.5, 12.5, 12.5, 12.5. So that tells me there that most of my blocks are 12.5 inches. Okay, so even though our blocks measure out, we have more blocks that are measuring at 12.5 inches, I want to make my blocks bigger because I want my quilt to be bigger. So I'm going to be making my blocks 14 inches. This is, I believe, the biggest block that we have. And I don't want to cut too much off of this block because if I do, then what will happen is we will start losing points. And let me see if I can find a good representation of where that's happened already. So right here, when I was squaring this one up, I lost a little bit of that point. So sometimes if you have a design going like this, you want to be very mindful of what you're cutting. Now we could cut this down. We could make this a 12.5 inch block. But if we did, we would lose some of the triangles on this side. And we would also lose more of the points on the actual triangles right here. So I don't want to lose that, and I don't want to shorten this. So for this particular block, we're going to leave this one at 14. I've already trimmed it. So next, what we're going to do, and I will show you how I trimmed it so that you're not wondering. But we're going to continue with the rest of the blocks. I'm going to trim them, and then we're going to modify them so that they'll fit in with our quilt, and it'll be fitting very, very well. All right, so for this particular block, I did not measure straight down the middle seam like I normally do. And the reason I didn't is because of this design in particular. What I did do was I measured here from this center to this next seam that we created here. So from the center seam and this seam, I measured how much it was. And it was about 3.5. Okay. So then what I did, because I had overlap over here, was I took my ruler and I laid it on this seam here, this second seam that we created. And I put my ruler down at 3.5 all the way along that seam line, and then I cut. And then I turned it, and I did the same thing again. Now I knew that this was going to be, I knew this square was 3.5. So I came over to this seam here, lined up again my ruler on that 3.5 inch mark, and then I cut off the excess. And that's how you trim up this block, and that's how you keep the size of these triangles. So trimming this kind of a block is a little bit different. So, and that's why I'm saying that you don't want to start cutting. Like if I were to cut, for instance, make sure I can see, that you can see where I'm going. If I decided that I wanted to cut another inch off of here, I would have to put my ruler down here on the 2.5 inch mark. And this is how much I would be cutting off. And I don't want to do that, because then you can see it cuts off all kinds of our triangles. So that's why we're not doing that. All right, so we're going to square this one up. This one is already pretty close to 14. So we're going to start with this one first. And we're going to use our center seam to square this up. So I'm going to measure, I'm going to make sure that I am lined up really well on my mat here so that I can see the line that's straight. I'm going to line up on my seam, and I'm going to do 7 inches. And so here is 6, because this is a 6-inch ruler, and I'm laying it right here on this seam, and it tells me that I need to move an inch over, and I'm just looking at this line that's right here on my mat. So I'm going to just move over to that line, and then I'm going to trim this up. I'm going to twist it, turn it. I'm going to do the same thing. Going to line up my ruler on that seam in the center. I'm at 24 for 6 inches. I'm going to move one over to my line that says 25. And I'm going to cut. And this is just cleaning up the edges. And this one we won't need to do anything special to, because it will be exactly how I want it. Same size and all. It's not going to affect our design at all here. Looks like I need to press it maybe again though, because it's looking a little bit wrinkly to me. Okay, and this one is just about done. This is squared up. That was the last part of it. So now you can see all those edges have been cleaned up. I'm going to go press this really quick just so it looks a little bit nicer. All right, so that's how you clean up the drunkard's path. We're going to keep moving along here. The next one that we're going to do, so let's, I guess, just get to this one. This is the smaller one. And this is what you're going to do for all of the smaller ones. So first we're going to trim it up. This one I do believe is 9 inches, but so 9, give or take, about 9 1/4. And that's because we hadn't squared it up or anything when we were sewing, right? So we're just going to clean this up really quick. And I'm going to do this one at 4.5. I'm going to line up on my seam here. Actually, I'm going to do it at 4. So I'm just lining up right here and counting over. spin my mat. If you have a spinning mat, this is a good time to use it. Measure twice, cut once. Almost didn't do that one right. I don't know why I still have... Oh, that's... I just didn't pull the dog ears off. Okay. So now we have this, which is much smaller than it was. I believe this should be 8 now. It is. It's 8. So now we have an 8 by 8 square. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take some extra fabric. So this is what you're going to do to the blocks that are smaller than what your desired size is going to be. Mine is 14. So I need to make this large enough for a 14-inch block. And what I am using is I am actually using the leftover fat quarters that I had when we made this. So I could use this, but I don't think that's going to be enough fabric to add to make this a 14-inch block. But this one would, if I can find it. I have my stash here. I had it in my scrap pile. Now, I don't have this in here anymore. So now I have to be creative because I don't have this dark purple. And I'm not certain that I have enough of this lighter purple. But that's okay because all of this fabric kind of coordinates together. So I'm really not too worried about it. Just making sure that I'm not missing something here. Sadly, I'm not. All right, so I have gone ahead and cut a 3.5-inch strip in this lighter color, and I've cut 2 of them, 2 3.5-inch strips that I'm going to sew on the sides here of my smaller block, which my block we now have trimmed down to 8 by 8. Okay, since I didn't have a long enough piece to put up here and I don't have enough of this fabric, I had to go digging. So we are going to use this color instead. Now, I know it's not the same as the dark. I don't have any more of the dark left, but that's okay because this color is actually in the quilt and it's going to look fine. Anyway, I'm going to go put this all together at the sewing machine and then I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. So now we are going to square this baby up. So again, we're going to try and line up on the center line as good as we possibly can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my ruler on a straight line on my mat and line it up perfectly right here in that center. And I am going to cut this at 7. So this is a 6-inch ruler. So I'm going to come over on my mat here and I'm going to line up on the 7. Where it would make it 7 inches. And then I'm going to trim the excess off. We're going to do that the same way here. Going to line this up perfectly. And then we're going to come over another inch. And we are going to trim. And this is as easy, I mean, this is about as good as it gets here. This is what you're going to do. So if you don't have, if your blocks are not exactly the size you want them, you can either make them bigger or you can make them smaller. I think I just really cut that one really bad. But we'll work with it. a matter of fact, I know I did. Cut too much off there, but we'll fudge it. We're gonna make it work. Come on, baby, work with me here. Wants to make me look like a liar. Okay, so now we are done with this block. And we have added size to it. That's how you do that. And it's going to be okay. Just lining it up with our other quilt block. So, for the rest of these, in case you're wondering. So, I've shown you how to square them up, and I have shown you how to add to them. Once you have them the way that you want them, you can start sewing them together. You can add borders in, or stripping in between. You can add borders around your quilt. You can do it however you normally would. If you're looking for suggestions on how to quilt a quilt like this, I would do, honestly, straight line quilting, and I would just do it inside of the designs. That keeps it very simple. It looks really nice. But again, I mean, it's your quilt, so it's really up to you. But like you could do in here and just straight line quilt it. That's how I would do mine. You might, if you feel like it's going to be too big, you can use the quilt as you go method. I've shown you how to do that. All right, so I'm going to continue working on these blocks. And then once I have the quilt put together, I'll share it with you. I probably won't have this done until sometime next week is my guess. So look for it on Sewing Talk Tuesday probably. I'll have made more progress on it, but at this point I just need to get the squares done, just like you. So it'll work out perfectly. And if you are a member of my private Facebook group, then be sure and post your pictures of your quilt in there because I want to see them. I bet they look amazing. And so I'm going to show you what I've done so far. So this is the one that we started with. These are all 14-inch blocks so far. As you can see, I framed that one. It turned out really cool. There's that one. That one's really light, so it's hard to see. The Jacob's Ladder. The Friendship Star. Our Bow Tie. The Drunkard's Path. I still have the Bear Paw. The Martha Washington Star. The Disappearing Nine Patch, and the Shoe Fly block, I do believe, is the last one that's in there. Woo, I can't remember. I can't believe I remembered all of the names. Anyway, that is it for right now. If you would like to follow me on social media, the links are down below in the description box. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. That lets everybody know that you love my content. Feel free to share because sharing is caring. Also, click that little bell. You'll get notified each and every time that I upload a new video as a subscriber. And it's free to subscribe, so you'll get to see all the cool stuff that I upload every time. And keep on crafting. That's it. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.